Good night, Oakland.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
For those listeners who can't appreciate a visual gag, that was a mini sweeper in honor of the first sweep of the year. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonmlb and they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti tumbler with every order. Finally, a sweep. And as one of our everydayers points out, I already commented and now I can't remember what it is. This was actually the second 4-game win streak of the year. They did have one earlier this year. I'll pull up his name. React Asylum 1. Who comments a lot that and he's right, they actually did have a 4-game. So, but when they win tomorrow, 5 will be new.
The first time. Yeah, that 4-game winning streak was the last 3 against Seattle and the first game against Oakland back in April.
Since the opening weekend, it's been a while. I had someone else point out that Cleveland's offense is no longer worse than Oakland's. We just got so used to it being terrible that the fact of the matter is yesterday we were talking about the pop quiz, right? Pop quiz. That 5 players are above league average. We'll get into today's game. As a matter of fact, though, I haven't even opened today's box score. I watched the whole thing. Can I say Stephen Kwan was safe? I'm gonna just make that statement now.
I think Jose was safe too. Can I be pedantic too?
Yes.
Since that's usually your thing. The Guardians have an 88 WRC plus. The Oakland Athletics also have an 88 WRC plus, so their offenses are actually even.
So that might not have been updated for today. So
that's live now.
Okay, is it live now? I don't know how to update that. You do, I don't. So, I was going to put the box score. That's right. But yeah, no, they, this game was much closer than the score looks. JP Sears. I again did the Oakland broadcast. They were obsessed with Mustard. Mustard came in the box with his championship belt. We got a lot of talk from Dallas Braden about what it's like, why it's a good thing that Sears and Allen pitch on the opposite sides of the mound so it doesn't gum up the mound too much. Got a lot of inside baseball about how it's hard if someone else is there and the mound gets too beat up. But they did, again, fixate on reverse platoon splits and talked about how this would be a hard matchup for Gabby Arias, and it was. But even they thought Stephen Kwan was safe. But they also had in the show JP Sears over the first month. It was a struggle. Over his last month, he's been really flipping good. He's had like a whip under 1. He's not letting guys get on base. He's missing bats. JP Sears has been solid. This was the best pitcher they faced. 7 innings, 2 runs on 8 Ks. Sears was great. Thank goodness. Rios is on like his 18th team. He is that dude.
Still has no idea where the strike zone is.
No, and credit to everyone who just did not swing. Though it is kind of funny, you get him up there, and then it's Naylor strikes out. Naylor is the only person who didn't reach base today, I believe, amongst the starters.
To be fair, though, Naylor did get a lot of balls in the strike zone. That was the one at bat where Rios actually threw.
And then Bell pops up against him. Just a very a very Josh Bellion swing, but maybe a very David Bellion swing. He didn't have much power. I could see him being very pop up back in the day, but this was how about Myles Straw driving the offense multiple times? Again, wasn't he the winning and or tying run on Monday? The first game in the series, right? When they came back, and then
hey, by the way,
missed one.
Myles Straw, he hasn't had a home run since 2021.
He had one today.
He would have
any other park.
Four parks. It would have been a home run in 4
okay.
Parks. 95 off the bat and 372. It would have been a wall scraper in 4 other parks. So Myles Straw is getting there. But that triple off the wall was nice to see. It was a big one.
He and then, like I said, I think that was the go-ahead score when he came across, and I think he had the go-ahead or tying score in 2 games this weekend. So again, reach base multiple times. He's up to a 242 average. If he can get up to 250 and be a 250, 320 guy with his defense, that might be good enough for him to be a starter with his 300 slug. It's never going to be pretty, but it's nice to see some of those positive improvements across the board.
He is just miscast on this team. Unfortunately, we're going to get into some miscasting on this team today. Like Straw is a. I know people love to make him the ire or Ahmed Rosario as we have all year.
The straw man, as it were.
I don't even know. Like we haven't. I know remember there was a stretch that people got mad at us. We talked about Rosario every day, and we haven't in a while because there's really nothing left to say about Ahmed Rosario that we haven't said at this point. Myles Straw, though, I know if you're worried about defensive metrics, advanced stats say he isn't having a great year.
Yeah,
but
anyone using like the advanced, the problem with defensive metrics is they take longer to cook than any other metric. So anyone who's out there using it don't really understand how they.
I'm not worried about that, but yeah, he's close. He's a 317 OBP right now. He is kind of miscast on this team, and yeah, we're gonna get into that later. But everyone likes to make him kind of the GOAT for some of the things, but he plays
the bad GOAT, not the good GOAT.
Not the good GOAT, unfortunately. And neither one of us is saying he's a great player. He's a good, solid guy. He just needs to be in the right role. It's
funny. He's him and Ahmed are like these two great clubhouse guys who have extreme limitations, but are about league average when you get through a typical season. That you're probably on a good team looking to improve upon. There's a lot of similarities, even though they're diametrically different. Ahmed gets no value from defense, and that's almost all of Straw's value. But there's a little bit between the lines that kind of connects them.
I just don't like that Myles Straw still only has 10 steals. That's another problem. By the way, steals by month, I think the Guardians still only have like 7 steals in the month of June. That's still everyone's gonna say, "Oh, they just won." You're being negative, but they're still not running. It's weird, but they stole base today, so I guess
they keep getting caught a lot. I don't know what's going on. Like the base running coach needs to get them to put in some. Like I said, Quan was safe. Everyone agreed on that. I don't remember the Jose one.
I think Jose was safe. He was safe.
But
Jose thought he was safe, but the Guardians are 26 this month in steals at 7.
Didn't they lead baseball last year?
They led baseball in the month of April this year.
I know 35. They did, but I was saying, they for whatever reason they have not adjusted. They've gotten worse at stealing bases as it's gotten easier in baseball to steal bases.
They had 30. They had 35 in April, and that was second in baseball. If you move to May, they had. May was not good. They had 13, and they have even less this month, and the month is going to be over next week. Like, I don't know what's going on. But, hey, they swept the A's. They did what they had to do. They had the Brewers come to town. It's going to get a little bit tougher, but like you said, they did what they did. They didn't swing the bat against the guy who couldn't find the strike zone. Josh Bell hit a ball to Eagle Avenue, or Bob Feller Way, I should say, and they survived. Logan Allen,
I was almost tempted to say, I was kind of like, the walks were not great. It's like outside of the walks, and it's like those were often full counts. You just couldn't get them put away. I was kind of surprised he didn't. Were you kind of surprised he didn't come out for the 5th inning?
No, because he was at 89 pitches. They think they're keeping Williams, Allen, and Bybee all like around 90. They're not extending them beyond 90, so not at all. And then they weren't hitting them. They weren't hitting them at all. I mean, they had 2 hits, and both hits were, I think, hard hit balls, but.
Then Sandlin comes in, and I was kind of surprised they had Sandlin and Niel go too. That was a bit of a surprise. We have not seen a lot of relievers go like 2 complete innings.
No, but you had Clase and Stefan and Henches go the night before, and Morgan.
Clase went both of the first 2 games. Andy was up in this game until it got out of reach.
Out of the play, yeah. So they had to be careful today. I mean, they didn't go to Curry, but. They had to get through the one today. I mean, Sandlin was good except for the walk, really. Yeah. And De Los Santos finally recovered from his last couple of outings where he's been a little bit funky too. So overall,
and they've got
a pretty solid day.
Again, the Oakland announce booth was very fixated on like this is the second best bullpen in baseball by they kept quoting various different metrics. But it's as much as we get annoyed with this bullpen, it's still a good bullpen. And, we talked about yesterday where they came in and allowed 1 base runner over 4 innings. Today they had to come in and do 5 innings, and they allowed.
Stephen had the 2 hits allowed that were charged. The runs got charged to Henches.
Yeah, and in this one it was, or maybe it was Monday's game or the bullpen. They're all kind of bleeding together for me, but or Tuesday's game, I should say. But in this one, 5 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk. When we had another game like that in this Oakland series, must have been Tuesdays, where it was the
same. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the same thing. The bullpen really came in and saved their tail. And yeah, it was another good performance. I mean, like I said, everyone outside of Naylor at least had a walk or a hit. It's funny when Ahmed has a hit and not a walk. Cam Gallagher had a walk. Now, yes, that's thanks to Rios just imploding, but hey, you take it where you can get it. And they didn't necessarily have a dominant offensive game. Myles Straw was your only multi-hit guy, but I'll take the win in the sweep. I kept waiting for it to fall apart. It didn't. They got the sweep. They took care of business against a bad team, which is what good teams do. And now they're 2 games from 500 and still only a game out.
I think it's a good point by the Oakland broadcast here. The bullpen overall is good. It's just like we've talked about throughout the year, is they've each had each guy in the bullpen. Now, Class A has been better over the last month, as we talked about yesterday. But each guy has just had their game where they've had a slip up. Like, Henches wasn't his best yesterday, and then Stephen gave 2 hits and that charged 2 runs to Henches. Like, each guy has just had a blip on the radar every week or so, and that's been costing them in the past. So, because remember when they were scoring runs, the bullpen was blowing it for a while there, especially in the month of May. So, overall, they're good. They just seem to get those Brian Shaw moments every once in a while where they're solid, and then they have a blow up. Everyone's like, "Oh, this bullpen stinks," but they really don't. And then the Ahmed Rosario walk too. And I know you were watching the pitch before he drew a walk. Did you see that was up by his shoulders, and he swung? It was almost out of defense to get out of the way, and he ended up swinging. But I'm like, geez, anything else he would have been probably hit or out on. So.
Yeah, I was definitely like, come on, dude. Don't let them up. Don't let him up off the mat. This guy can't find the zone. And then he took care of business. He got the walk, then Ramirez got his walk. Yeah, it was just, they had, I don't know if I've ever seen 3 straight walks to get through 3 straight runs. It's pretty bad. But things, yeah, we are going to take our first break here. We'll be back in a moment on today's episode of Locked On Guardians. Oh, okay. So FanDuel is our fantastic sponsor. I realize I said I didn't care about who was reading it and never confirmed it was me reading it. Just for some behind baseball
season is in full swing. There's no better place to get on the action on FanDuel. I made some bets yesterday. I did not win. I think the Gavin Williams game, I had over 6 strikeouts. I had Naylor to hit a homer, which he did later in the game. I got that one right. And then I had the under on Wednesday's game being under 8 runs. That did not happen. That would have been bad because the Guardians would have lost. But you could get, if you're a new customer, you can get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to join today. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball.
And I want to remind everyone to check out SiriusXM for this series against the Brewers. Just type Guardians into your browser wherever you use SiriusXM.
Yes, the Brewers. We're going to talk about the Brewers, my favorite team in baseball. Okay, so we were texting back and forth the other day about this lineup and the roster construction right now as they currently are outfitted, and how frustrating it is to see. The offense, has some good games, and they've been better, obviously, in the month of June than they have in the rest of the year, which is good because they needed it. But, there's still things that are frustrating, like Ahmed Rosario still hitting second. I don't know what to do with that at this point. It just – I feel like by now, because Ahmed's hitting 255, like he's not getting it back together. He's not hitting 280. He's not – I mean, he might if he gets hot, but he hasn't gotten there at this point. So he's still hitting second. I don't know what to do there. And – like you said the other day, whenever the shortstop has to hit second every time, and
that's the law.
Yeah, it's the law. And Gabby Arias, who was forced to play against a lefty on Thursday because of the Will Brennan injury, which we'll talk about. But we were talking about how do you make the most of what the Guardians roster has, because they do have pieces here that fit. They do have pieces here that can work on the bench. I mean, everyone wants to see more Tyler Freeman. I don't know that you're getting a ton of extra production out of him. I think he's in 290, but his WRC plus is 90 because
there's no power in that.
There's no power. Everyone's like, oh, he's got better exit velocity, but it's
the launch angle is going to be that launch angle is never going to generate, but he needs, maybe if he went to Tampa, they can fix launch angle or something like that. But he's a strong kid and he hits for big velocity.
It doesn't mean he can't play.
But he can still be productive in spite of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, how do you maximize this roster, especially with Bo Naylor being here now? So, some of the things we were just talking about the other day, like, obviously, Will Brennan has been hot this month. I was looking at the walk rate, and he's still not walking a ton, which is concerning. If this is going to hold up or not. And hopefully, he's okay. They said that he didn't play Thursday, obviously, and he may not play Friday, but he's going to be okay. They're not concerned about anything too long term, but you never know with shoulder. So Arias had to play right field against a lefty, and of course JP Sears ate him up. He was not good. He ended up getting a hit later in the game, didn't he? Didn't Arias end up with the hit later?
He had a walk. I was trying to remember if he also had a hit. I know he was one of the first guys.
He had a walk, not a hit.
Yeah, he just had the walk.
So I guess give him that. But like, they have to find a way to commit, because someone was telling me the other day, oh, Gabby Arias isn't good. I'm like, Gabby Arias's numbers against right-handers are fantastic. His OPS is over 800. If you could find a way to get him in the lineup against right-handers every day or most days of the week, you can get production out of him and stop playing him against left-handers. I know they want to do the platoon advantage, and this is one of the things we talk about over the offseason. They don't have a guy in this roster who can hit left-handers very well. One of those guys might be David Fry. Why cannot they not find David, like Josh Bell? I know he hit the long home run today. Things are not going great there. He's walking, and he's having a very like Carlos Santana slump season type season. Like,
yeah, good call.
He's walking. He hits an occasional bomb, and he doesn't strike out a ton, which is good, but things are not going well. Like, David Fry should be getting into the lineup against lefties, whether he needs the DH. If you want to catch him for the first 5 innings, play him at first base, DH Josh Naylor, because Naylor seems to be doing a little better against lefties, so you have to sit him. Like, get David Fry in the lineup against lefties. Sit Gabby Arias. I know that's not ideal with Will Brennan in right field, but like against righties, you can move Will Brennan over to center, and you can put Arias in right. You can give Ahmed Rosario.
David Fry has 12 at bats versus lefties. Currently, this team has the 4th best hitter right now on this team versus left-handed, and he's not even on the team, is Mike Zunino at a 781. Josh Bell
released.
Yeah, Josh Bell's at a 769. Andres Jimenez, 888 OPS is number 1. Stephen Kwan, 831. Yeah. And Kwan's got reverse platoon splits this year as well. He's an 831 versus lefties, Ahmed, so an 806. Jose's at a 669. Jose's barely hitting above the Mendoza line. He's at a 202 batting average. He can't hit lefties this year. Straw's at a 623. Naylor is at a 607. He's down there still. Brennan's at a 447, so you probably want him platooning. But you keep working your way down, and Gabby Arias at a 357. So it's ugly. If you go the other way, though, the reason I jump in over Justin, which everyone loves here, and we talk about right-handed OPS, Jose Ramirez 959. Number 2 on this team in right-handed OPS, Gabby Arias at 860.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 in 72 at bats, he's your second best hitter. Why is he not playing against righties? Like, why? It's frustrating because you have 3 guys hitting over 800 against righties and 3 guys have an OPS over 800 against lefties. And, it's why is Jimenez hit like 8th versus lefties when he's been your most productive hitter? And honestly, you look at that data, it's like, yeah, Kwan, Ahmed, and either have him hit 3rd or 4th for Andres right now versus lefties because he can do that. And on the other side of things, Gabby, Naylor, and Ramirez have Gabby playing shortstop
against right-handers.
Ahmed Rosario's got a 584 versus righties. Andres Jimenez has a 586. It's not much better. Myles Straw, 632. At least he's a consistent 600 either way. Stephen Kwan, 650. Stephen Kwan can't hit righties this year, and that's part of the that's one of the big things for him. I mean, Will Brennan, 757. Like, this team needs to realize that, like, you can flip your lineup when you're facing a righty versus a lefty. You can platoon guys, and they used to platoon all the time. That was traditional.
I know. Eric Wedge.
Those were traditional platoons. They don't seem to realize that reverse platoon. They don't look at a platoon split. They just righty lefty. That's all you need to know.
It's so bizarre. And I don't know that we're talking about a team, like, even if you execute these platoon lineups, if you're going to turn into a team that actually scores 4 runs a game, but it could be better. I mean, like I said, do you want to DH David Fry or put him at first base against lefties for a few innings and DH Naylor, give him a half day off his feet? Gabby Arias at shortstop against some right-handers and right field against some right-handers, and move Will Brennan over to center. Think about some of the value you can create with Myles Straw, where if he's not starting against the right-hander, you bring him in to pinch run for Josh Naylor late in the game, and he steals a base, and you put him in center to, I know you might lose the DH, that's a problem, but if you find ways to pinch run and play Myles Straw as a defensive replacement late in the game when he doesn't start against a right-hander, you can create some surplus value there. If Will Brennan's better against right-handers and Gabby Arias is better against right-handers, you can maximize that. And I'm not saying you have to tie Ahmed Rosario to the bench against righties, because let's be honest, you face more righties than lefties. You don't face lefties a ton. But if you have a right-hander up late in the game, they're never going to pinch hit for Ahmed Rosario for Gabby Arias. But it's like, I feel like the whole thing here with Rosario is they are just trying not to tank his free agent value because he's a good guy. We talked about that. But it's like you have all these pieces that could work out. Like Arias and Fry can play a little bit. You can move those guys into the lineup and you can maximize these things. And without really sacrificing at bats for other people, you can make this all work. You just have to have the Always Sunny in Philadelphia chart guy up there, just diagramming everything. Like, it can work. Well, it's not that hard.
And Gabby Arias has 52 at bats for his lefties, and he's terrible against him. He's awesome against righties and only has 78. Like, that's not how it's not supposed to be that balanced. And it's because when Brendan was struggling, he got those against righties. He's not getting those anymore. Now he's only getting opportunities for his lefties. He can't hit lefties. And people keep asking me, like, Oscar Gonzalez, when will he be back? He's not hitting at all in AAA. Like, occasional sprouts here or there, but we're basically waiting on Valera, not Gonzalez. If you're waiting for another outfield option, it's not SpongeBob.
Yeah, nothing has changed in the minors for Gonzalez. He doesn't walk. He's still striking out a decent bit. There's no real pop coming there. It's just he's exposed.
For all the people who get like really aggro about Yainer Diaz and the fact he's got 6 home runs, he's Oscar Gonzalez. Yeah. 7. He's Oscar Gonzalez. It's unsustainable.
With a great arm behind the plate, I will say.
But Oscar Gonzalez has a great arm in right field. If you could have taught him catcher, they'd have the same arm strength, I bet.
That's true. No, you're right. I think you're
like, the walk rate, the power, it's all the same. But the problem is when you have that profile, it only works for Luis Robert. Over the last decade, it's worked for one Tim dude. Anderson. It's like, you can't bet on that.
No, it's tough to bet on. And I know some people might say, I want to caution this too, because I've seen a lot of comments saying, oh, this guy's not good at this because I'm not good at this. And some of that stuff's small sample size. It's like, the Gabby Arias stuff is both small sample size at the big league level this year, but in AAA, historically, he has struggled against lefties, so that's not new. Andres Gimenez, I want to say last year, wasn't he
hit lefties? He was good against lefties last year.
This is a 2-year thing for him, so that might be a thing. Like, you have to be careful about balancing sample size with some of these things. Because like Stephen Kwan, like you said, has reverse platoon splits this year. I don't think that was the case last year. I think last year he was pretty bad against lefties. So that's a weird thing. You have to be very careful about this. But again, this is a team that has resources in the analytics department. They have the numbers. They have the data to back this up. They have all this information. If we know this, they know this. It's just very frustrating that they can mix and match much better. And the other thing about this too is I don't think there's a piece coming outside the organization. Like you said, you're kind of waiting on George Valera, who just got back to Columbus, and he had a day off on Thursday, and everyone was like, oh, George Valera's on the line. He's coming up. No, I know, because everyone's like, oh, Will Brennan got hurt Thursday or Wednesday, so maybe we're going to see Valera. Valera's not coming up right now.
No,
he's got to be on the field for a week or two before you can even think about that.
So as a quick note on that, last year Kwan was an 85 versus lefties in terms of runs created plus, and 135 against righties. So it's if you want to talk about. So if I switch to this year, instead of being an 85 and what I said, a 135, I believe this year he is at and it's thinking he is at a 140 and an 80. He's completely flopped them.
That doesn't add up. That's something that's weird. That's the thing I would say is fluky right there. You don't know how to interpret that, but
yeah, and you look at, but it's like, why is he not as effective this year? It's that. Because he killed righties last year, and this year he's struggling against them. Like this 100% explains the difference in his performance, even though most of his numbers are the same. In terms of Andres, a 158 last year versus lefties, and a 135 versus righties. So yeah, it's 2 years in a row where he's actually hit lefties better than righties. I think at that point you start to be like, well, maybe this is just a thing. Like lefties can be weird. Like I was a fencer, and lefties were hard for lefties and righties because you just don't face a lot of them. Like lefties are always tricky. You don't get to see as many. This year he's a 154 versus lefties and a 61 versus righties. So it's again like last year, like Andre should be hitting higher versus lefties. He hits lefties well. I'm kind of curious to look at his 2020 data because that was when he was at the Mets and see what that was. He had a 110 versus in the Mets that year in that weird year and a 104 versus righties. So he's like every single year he has hit lefties well. So I mean, I don't know if 2021 was such a weird year for him. I don't even know. 2021 was the one year he didn't. And that was the year that he wasn't really up that much. He didn't, he struggled out of the gate. But I think there's enough there to say that he should hit higher against lefties. And I don't know why this team doesn't weaponize the data we know they have.
Tell me this: what is the downside in trying it? Right, because the offense is really below league average. Obviously, we just said they have the same offensive output as the Oakland Athletics, who Rachel Phelps would be embarrassed of. What is the harm in trying that out? Like, if you do it for a week and it doesn't work, I mean, in a week really isn't a long time.
is what they would say in management. There, they refuse. Like when Ahmed was out hurt, they made Gabby hit 2 because they didn't want to mess with anyone else's comfortability in the line.
And that's been a thing. That's been a thing for a long time, actually.
I know.
So I want to say, I don't know what it is. Back to this is before a lot of data worked its way into the dugout, but I want to say back in the Manny Acta era too, which I tried to brainwash away because it was bad. That happened a lot too. And the Eric Wedge, I specifically remember Eric Wedge doing it a lot too, where if a guy didn't play that day in his normal position, like the same guy would play the position, so his spot in the lineup. Like that is the thing managers have done for a long time. I just don't understand it. Like it is mind-numbingly weird.
I mean, personally, it drives me nuts that they don't shake up the lineup. Like your lineup should be different versus a righty and a lefty. We got to take a break though, pay the bills as it were, come back, and we'll probably be doing some draft talk. Maybe we'll do our perfect lineups in the future, some Brewers talk as well on today's Locked On Guardians.
Guardians Brewers Friday night 7:10 Sirius XM. Search Guardians on your app for Shane Bieber versus Wade Miley, who definitely won't hit the Guardians this year. Question mark. The last time Wade Miley pitched in Cleveland, it was a no-hitter. I think he was at the Reds back then, right?
I can't remember. Part of me says Diamondbacks, but
You know what's amazing is the Guardians lineup, or I guess they were the Indians in 2021. They were bad in 2021, but they've been bad this year, and they haven't been no-hit yet. Wasn't that amazing? For as much as we complain about the offense this year,
they got no hit like 3 or 4 times, right?
it was 3 if you count the
composite one,
the 7-inning game. Remember that back then we were still doing 7-inning doubleheaders, and the 7th inning was a no hitter. So it's 3 if you count that, but it's 2 if you only count the 9-inning games, which 2 is still a lot in one season. And there hasn't been a no hitter, I think, since 2021. So there you go. The Guardians robbed MLB of all the no hitters that year.
I do want to say, if you want more Bo Naylor coverage, friend of the show, Dan Zaborski, has an article up over on Fangraphs about the Bo Naylor era begins in Cleveland. You can also go back and revisit our old interview where we had a lot of fun talking with Dan. So, we probably had some Bo talk in there as well as he fit a lot of the zips. So I just wanted to throw that out there to go check that out.
Love Dan. Also an Ohio guy who doesn't like
Skyline chili.
Skyline chili. I can agree with that. Skyline chili is just terrible. And if you comment that you like it, you're no longer an everydayer. No, I'm kidding. I don't care.
Justin's going to delete that. That's like swearing.
Yeah. You want to do some quick draft talk? I tweeted earlier today, just as a joke, but Wake Forest ended up losing to LSU in the College World Series. It's just technically semifinal here. But I said the next time Brock Wilken takes an at bat, it'll be 2024. Hopefully it'll be in Lake County for the Guardians. I don't know if that's true, but we're wishing it into existence.
If you go and I shared some links to my mock. I had him to Cleveland. Strikeout rate under 20, and under the old system, he would have been 17 as a high school kid on draft day. He was an MVP of the Cape, I want to say. There is some good connective tissue. And yes, he had 31 home runs, but that is a ballpark where I might hit 10 if I played every day. It is extremely hitter friendly. So don't get me wrong, he's got excellent EVs. There is plus power in that profile, but
he can play third.
Yeah, I think he can play third. He's a better athlete he gets credit for. Also, if you've been watching I watched every video I could get on the draft combine. MLB, like, get your junk together. Like, one, they have a stats link on the page to last year's stats, and not all of them even load. Two, you don't have it so I can watch all of the clips, just a handful online. Like, put this online. Let us watch it. Let us dive in. I spent a good hour or so reorganizing my big board. It's roughly 35 players right now. While watching every clip I could get. Cole Carrig, watch him for that comp B pick. Another Cape performer, flexibility. He threw, if you weren't following the combine, he threw 102 miles an hour. Might have talked about that yesterday. From the outfield, he plays some outfield, plays some catcher, plays some shortstop. Eric Batone is someone to watch. He is super young. 17 years, 7 months. He's not going to turn 18 for 5 more months. It's what, from now we're looking at like November, December for his birthday. He looked awesome throughout this combine. So if the Indians, Guardians, whatever they are, now I got to ban myself, delete my comment. If the Guardians are going to their old age models, I don't think it's for Colt Emerson. I think it's look for Batone.
Okay with that. The MLB pipeline, as we were just saying, someone sent me a link to Pipeline's latest mock. They've got Sammy Stafura going 23 to the Guardians, which I don't hate, but I don't really love. He does also connect Wilkin to them too, which that's the second time I've seen them connected to Wilkin. So
I don't know. Like, I went and looked at Sammy Stafura through Baseball Reference, and he's been hot of late, but like, I don't love him. Like, he's not in my top
better.
5.
It's better than. To me, it's better than Emerson. It's better than McGonigal.
No, I have both those guys higher than Stafura, personally.
Really?
Yes. Stafura, and he's a guy where, like, those other guys are all like 95th percentile in most things, which again, most of your draft guys should be. So it's like, they should be. But his, like, maybe his swing efficiency, and then, like, I don't know, he just struck me as, listen, I was not a Volpe guy, and we'll see how Volpe goes, but there's some Volpe to him, and where it's like, I'm thinking he's 50s, like maybe a 55. He's a cold weather guy. He's not really big. He's almost a year older than Eric Batone, with like 4 inches less height and nowhere near like the speed or power. Like, he's 18 years, 7 months. If I'm picking between those two, I'm going to take the guy who runs better, throws better, hits better, and has a more efficient swing, and is a year younger. His swing efficiency was 36 this year at the National Showcase. That's bad.
I can
but I mean, things have been changing. People like him a lot. I got to revisit him. He's just one of those guys, when I hear about the revisiting, I'm kind of like, really? Like, I don't, it's good. And it's, it's quick twitch, and it's this and that, but just like, you're not getting, in many ways, he's a Guardians guy. It's the problem with how they develop. He's quick twitch. He doesn't really hit the ball hard, but it's a good stance, wide stance. He's going to put the ball in play. He's going to make a lot of contact. There's not a lot of power to it. It is a clean, compact swing, uses the whole park. Doubles, not homers. It's just because I'm so tired of that profile. So maybe not knock on Sammy as much as I'm done with this type of hitter.
Yeah, we wanted to get into that today. We never got into it, but so we'll do it next week. I'm sure you had a lot to say about the current archetype of a Cleveland Guardians position player is really something worth studying. This weekend, Brewers, you got, like I said, Wade Miley and Shane Bieber Friday. That'll be interesting. Tanner Bybee, Freddie Peralta Saturday. That should be a good match, really. Peralta's been interesting, hasn't had a great year. And Corbin Burns is having a weird season, too. Aaron Savali on Sunday. That should be a very interesting series. The Brewers are a game and a half behind the surging Cincinnati Reds. Unbelievable. That is, Cincinnati Reds are the best team in the state of Ohio. Who would have said that back in March? I don't know.
I had some talks with Locked On Jeff Carr I almost said Locked On Carr of Locked On Reds about, like, if Cleveland fell apart, could Cleveland get Encarnacion Strand and Chase Petty for Bieber? And he said people in Cincinnati don't want to believe it, but he goes that makes sense to him. So,
I thought Chase Petty was going to be a Guardians pick back in 2021, so I'd be down with that. I don't know. Was he 2020 or 2021?
21.
Yeah, I thought Chase Petty would be a Cleveland guy, so I would be very down with that if that happens. But who knows? I don't know. The Guardians are a game back, and the Twins did win. I don't know who the Twins are facing this weekend, but I think my Brewers, my prediction that the Guardians would trade for Corbin Burns, I think you can dig a 6-foot hole and bury that one. That's never happening. More likely that Shane Bieber goes to the Brewers than Corbin Burns comes to the Guardians, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Joey Weimer, please. Joey Weimer.
The one other guy I got to point out, just for you age fans, George Wolklow. If you're feeling like you don't like things that are woke, you might not like Wolklow. Kind of looks like that.
That's our show.
6'7", 240-pound guy, looks like Spencer Jones, who reclassified, won't turn 18 until January. Youngest guy in this class. Illinois, big power. Go check him out. Fun name who popped up today. But thank you all for watching, rating, and reviewing. Downloading it helps. We will be back next week with more Guardians content after another sweep and a first place team for Sunday.
Ooh, you heard it here first. Tell Jeff he's wrong.
Yeah, I most definitely will likely be. But thank you all for watching, and go Guardians, go.
Sweep.